Yo, what's up, Steamtown youth? Hope you guys are doing all right. We're going on, I don't know, over 2 months now of this quarantine. Really crazy if you think about it. Definitely a weird time, just for everyone, I think. A little uncertain with the what's going to happen in the future. It looks like things are easing up some, and that will get back to life as normal in the next month or so. We'll see what's going on. I know. Yesterday was a beautiful day, so I appreciated that. Nice weather. Hope you guys got outside. Anyway, so last few weeks at youth group, Wednesday night, Jason has been leading us in some games. That was a nice break. I had a lot of fun with you guys. Hope you did too. But we're gonna get back kind of into the swing of things tonight, at least. Got a short lesson for you guys, and I just wanted you to think about. I challenged you weeks ago. I said, hey, take this time that God has given you, this extra time that God has given you. You're home, you're bored, whatever, but don't just waste it. Don't just sit around and mope about it. Like think, okay, God has given me this time. Let me just take some time to think about my life, how I can grow. What are some things that God has brought to my mind in light of this situation that I've had that we're all in, and how can I learn from this and take something away from it. So I figured tonight I would share some of the things that I've been learning and some of the thoughts that I've had in light of the situation that God has kind of taught me or impressed upon me. And I want to share those things with you. So the first thing I want you guys to think about is that situations like this don't cause us to be anything. Okay, so in other words, a lot of times people think like, well, I feel this way, or I'm like this because this situation happened. Like we blame the situation for why we are a certain way. But actually, instead, a situation like this doesn't cause us to be anything. It just reveals to us who we really are. Okay, and that's what situations do. I mean, it's funny. You guys are young, but for example, I tell people this in marriage counseling all the time, or premarital counseling all the time. I say, listen, uh, you know, when you get married, what's going to happen is that you're going to be in a situation now where you can't just do whatever you want. You're accountable to somebody else. You're living with somebody else, and over time, what's going to happen is you're going to be tempted to blame that person. Well, I used to be like this, but then ever since I got married, now I'm like this. It's like no, that person didn't, and you want to blame the other person. But what I tell people is that person didn't cause you to be anything. That person didn't make you be anything. All that person did was just kind of shake or rub what was already in you right out of you and exposes who you actually are. And that's what a situation like this can do. So if you find yourself not doing all right and being depressed and whatever it is, if you're struggling during this time, it's the situation is not making you struggle. Okay, the situation is just revealing that something already is not going so well inside of you, but now you're not distracted enough to suppress those things because that's what people usually do. We all just stay so busy. You got addictions. You have all kinds of addictions. It's not just like drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about all kinds of addictions. And things. I mean, it could be food. It could be electronics and our phones and whatever it is. Doesn't even matter. But we just stay so busy that we kind of suppress how we really feel deep down inside. And a situation like this kind of exposes what's really going on in our heart, what's really there. That's why they say right now, they say domestic abuse is really high right now. Um, both child abuse and marital abuse because families are just home together. They're stuck in the same house together, and usually they're so busy and distracted they can just deal with life. But now they can't even deal with each other, and so you have like crazy stuff like that. Like those numbers are really high right now, and it's not like oh well this situation made me an abusive person. No, uh, that whatever's going on inside of those people was already deep down. They just had suppressed it and could be distracted enough with everyday life that stuff didn't come out. So the first question I have for you is, who are you? Okay. In other words, in light of this situation, if you really think about it, who are you? How are you doing right now, and why do you think you're doing that way? You can't blame the situation. So this situation should expose who you actually are. So who are you? That's the first question I have. The second thought that came to mind during this time is I realized, to me, I was like, man, we are really vulnerable. Like, humans are really vulnerable. In one little virus, like, shuts down the whole world economy, just like that. I mean, that's a crazy thing that God can just snap his finger and shut everything down just like that. So I want you guys to read Psalm 2. So get out your Bibles when you have a chance. Read Psalm 2 after the video. Write it down. Read Psalm 2. And I want you to pay special attention to the last 3 verses and think about what it's telling us to be like in light of God being in control of everything. So, in other words, in light of God just being in control of all things, what should we think and be like? Okay? So the second question I have for you is, who is God to you? So the first question is, who are you? Second question is, who is God to you? Is he really that? Is he really the one who is in control of your life, in control of all things, and you're just like living for him and just want to please him and serve him, knowing that he's going to win in the end? He's going to win in the meantime, and there's nothing better you can do than just give your life to him, serve him. It only makes sense. And a situation like this kind of exposes the fact that you try to go against God, you try to run from him, you try to live life your own way, and really, he could shut everything down just like that, and it just exposes how small we are and how big he is. So, no, the third thing, so just think about how big God is and just how in control of everything he is kind of the second thought I've had. And then the third thought I had, and this one was a big deal and one I really wanted to share with you guys, is that this situation has really changed my perspective in realizing how much that I'm not going to blame you. I'll just say me. How much I really don't care about those who are suffering and hurting around us. And the reason that came to mind is because I think in our country everything was going fairly well most of the time. Like, we have pretty good lives. So we got hobbies, we have families, we have things going on. We're, like I said earlier, we're distracted, we're busy, and we have it really good in this country. And so this situation has just allowed me to slow down enough, and because I was thinking at first about, like, okay, this virus coming and hitting people, and some people suffering, and what that's going to mean, and how we can, made me think, like, okay, how can we help people who are suffering and what they're going through. Sorry, I got a phone call coming in. I probably should have. It's Jason Matthews. Jason, I'll get back to you later. All right. So so what's happened is that I started really thinking about the fact that why is it that it takes a situation like this to get me to think about those who are suffering and hurting? Because I looked up some statistics, some world statistics, and I want to read these to you guys, and just pay attention to some of these numbers here. There was so many statistics. I only just pulled some for various reasons, but listen to these statistics that I looked up. Right now, the world population is 7 to 8 billion people. So 7 to 8 billion people live on the earth. The number of deaths just this year is around 20 million. So the number of deaths just this year, January through the end of April, okay? We're talking about, 4 months. 20 million people have died. The number of deaths today, like today, since we woke up this morning until now, 64,000 people have died today. Money spent on video games today, okay? The amount of money spent on video games today, $114 million spent on video games just today. Okay, people who died of hunger today is 12,000 people. 12,000 people died of hunger today. Deaths from water-related diseases this year, 275,000 people. Deaths from water-related diseases this year, 275,000 people. Other people that have died from communicable diseases this year, 4 million people have died from communicable diseases this year. 4 million, 4 months. 4 million people died of different communicable diseases this year. This one's real crazy. Abortions this year, 4 months. Number of abortions, 13 million abortions this year. Which is really crazy because if there's been 20, I don't know if they included that in, if that number is included in the 20 million number of deaths this year or not. Because it's deaths, but it's like, it's murder. But either way, 20 million total deaths this year and 13 million abortions this year. So over half of the deaths this year have been aborted babies, which is just crazy. Number of deaths due to cancer this year, 2 million people. Number of deaths due to suicide this year, 350,000. Money spent on illegal drugs this year, $130 billion spent on illegal drugs this year. Car accident fatalities this year, 441,000 people. Just guys, those are numbers from just this year. And I guess so. My point is that slowing down and allowing this situation to cause me to think about the suffering, the worldwide suffering that's without the coronavirus. Like, I didn't even include the coronavirus in that. So in other words, just forget the coronavirus for a second and just think about the fact that that is happening at all times, with or without this coronavirus, which has kind of like affected our lives. In other words, because the coronavirus affected our lives, we've stopped, we've thought about things, like we're frustrated, whatever it is. But the truth is that this is the type of suffering and craziness that's going on out there at all times. Why is it that I don't care that much about that stuff? Now, part of it is just ignorance. Like, I didn't ever realize just the numbers of people dying from different things, like every day, like 64,000 deaths today. I don't know, it got me thinking about how life is really short. There's an overwhelming amount of suffering going on around us, people dying, people not knowing Jesus. So like the need, and you think about the need to spread the gospel and to take the time that I have and make the most of it. And I was thinking about Matthew chapter, when I was thinking about this, the overwhelming need for the gospel to go out, I was thinking about Matthew chapter 9, verse 35 through 38. And in one of those verses, Jesus says, he says to his disciples, he looks around and he sees crowds of people and says they were like sheep without a shepherd. In other words, he saw people and they were lost. And Jesus said, you know, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. In other words, the harvest is plentiful. There's plenty of need out there, and they're ripe for hearing. In other words, people are hopeless and they want hope. And we have the hope to give them, but there's so many more people that need hope and just not enough people that are willing to go give the hope of Jesus. And so that was just an overwhelming thought that I've had, like, okay, God, what am I going to do with my life? You know, I'm a pastor, I'm serving you, but still a lot of what we do is just kind of worthless and, I don't know, insignificant compared to this overwhelming need that I just can see worldwide that's happening every day. And the truth is, I'm very distracted by things and not so worried about the hurting and hurting people out there and people that are suffering. I mean, just the deaths alone. Like, imagine all the families impacted by these deaths. And anyway, so the last question I have for you is, who are others to you? So, who are you? Who is God to you? And then, who are others to you? Do you care about them? And the harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. Guys, I just want to challenge you that don't waste your life. Don't spend it on worthless things. Don't think you're too young right now to make a difference. Like, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And and God is calling you to spread the hope of Jesus to the world. And everyone has to do their part in order for us to really get the gospel to every man, woman, and child. Everyone has to do their part. Each one of us has people that we come in contact with that others don't, and it's our responsibility to take the gospel to them. And maybe think about giving your life to God for missions work or full-time ministry, and to just meet that need of getting the gospel to every man, woman, and child. So, anyways, those are three of the thoughts I've had. Hope that you guys could take something away from that. Obviously, look forward to seeing you guys and hanging out again. It's gonna be fun. We'll get together and see each other face to face instead of doing things like this. This is getting kind of old, but like I said, I just want you to make the most of it. I'm trying to make the most of it, and look forward to seeing you guys tonight on the Zoom call. So tune into that, and we'll see you then. Thank you guys.